Moonwalker.
Alright then, we're back. So we're a bit of a change of pace from the two-game pig block here. We're going to play Michael Jackson's Moonwalker. So this game has no resemblance whatsoever to the Genesis version. This is an isometric run-and-gun. Designed for 3 players to play simultaneously as Michael Jacksons with different colored suits on. We're just going to play as one of them. We're going to get started right away. So the game is actually pretty simple. You have one attack. It is a charge attack that fires when you release the button. The damage of it increases quite a bit as you charge up. The max level can almost one-hit kill almost any enemy, and if you just tap it, you'll barely do any damage. Occasionally you'll also see the monkey Bubbles, who will transform you into a robot which is very overpowered and can fire missiles almost instantly, instead of a charge shot. So stage 1 is just kind of a quick tutorial. Stage 2 is where the game pretty much really starts. So enemies are pretty interesting in this game. Most of them can only fire in 4 directions, the 4 diagonals. They will also generally charge at you. You can kind of tell what they're doing based on where they're going, because they'll usually space themselves out and try and stand to one of the corners of you, and they'll usually try and stand in opposite corners so that they kind of cross you up. Getting hit by a bullet does a small amount of damage, but if they walk into you, you take quite a bit, so keeping them away is almost more important than dodging, which is kind of interesting. There are kids scattered throughout there that you rescue, kind of like the POWs in Metal Slug. Some give you health, some give you bombs. So above the health bar you can see a legs icon, and the second button will fire 1 of 2 bombs randomly. Usually it's either a screen clear or an orb that flies around and does a lot of damage to a single enemy. You generally want the orb one because when you're using a bomb, you're pretty much using it against bosses. And it usually does a pretty good job of clearing up the screen, even if it's just normal enemies anyway. Now this game is pretty tough if you're just trying to play through it, but you can actually control the scrolling of the screen quite a bit. So a lot of it is timing so that your charge shot is in a good position when the enemies when the screen scrolls enough to spawn the enemies. And because it takes a little while to charge up, hitting multiple enemies is very important. Just gonna throw chairs at me. Corners are usually pretty safe because they can only shoot diagonally, so they'll slowly run around them. So the health items are pretty plentiful in the first couple stages, but they get pretty few and far between afterwards. And these musicians are actually enemies, because why not? once you get the mech, you're pretty much overpowered for the rest of the stage. So this is our first real boss, so we have a quick little, almost mid-boss here. It's just kind of one of the larger enemies that shows up quite a bit later on. And then you have these strange turret things, which run right up to you and you can't do anything about it sometimes. So they eventually shoot at you. Their shots are locked into 8 directions, so you can stand just to the side and you don't really, as long as you can predict it and they don't try and rush you, it's pretty easy to avoid. There's 2, what are you doing? There's 2 of them there and then you beat the stage. Stage 2 is, again, pretty easy. 3 is where it gets kind of tricky. They start throwing more higher damage enemies at you. The different colored enemies have different amounts of health, and even within them, certain instances of an enemy type can have varying amounts of health. So at this point, a lot of the enemies take multiple charge shots, so you can't just time the start of the scroll of the screen and hit them with a max charge right away. This is the first major enemy like this, a guy in a wheel that rushes after you. This thing has a very disproportionately large amount of health. So you just try and keep the screen from scrolling. You get actually quite a bit of time before the timeout enemies start spawning. Eventually, if you wait too long, if you stall too long, a red enemy will pop out that's invincible and rushes you down until you are forced to move forward. And here's flamethrowers for some reason. But if you get up close and spam them, you interrupt their animation and reset it, so you don't really have to worry about them too much. Health refill and 3 bombs, so we're actually looking pretty good here. Those cars can actually damage you, so if I would have been a little bit forward, I would have taken quite a bit. You can see these guys trying to line up on the diagonals to get a cross shot. So the enemies are actually pretty interestingly complex. So they'll start out usually standing in the same spot, shooting a couple times, and then they'll move to a patrolling animation, or a patrolling sequence where they'll shoot between a couple different spots. And if you wait too long, they'll break entirely and just rush you down. These enemies are pretty annoying. They can run into you and they'll try to cross to the other side of you while you're standing there, and these things do a ton of damage if they run into you. So it's good to get them out of the way and safely. So this thing that spawns has a ton of health. One of the kids up there has a bomb. That guy was going to run into me, and that guy does a lot of damage too. This is the screen clear bomb, so it's going to do a lot of damage to all of the enemies, but not enough to the single one. If I would have gotten the other one, that guy would not be anywhere near. Thankfully, you can actually kind of sit and do weak power shots to the directly below it, and it'll kind of stun lock him because he does his attack animation whenever he's hit, and so you can just reset that. Wait for these guys to all jump out of the window for some reason. There's the third one. There you are. The mechs are pretty interesting. You pretty much only want to hit them with a max power charge shot, because if you don't kill them in one hit, they'll turn red and rush you down and explode for a lot of damage. There's a lot of enemies here, and I usually bomb, but I'm doing pretty well, so I can probably just save it here. Another row of enemies just magically appears there. I want to get these. Nope. Now we have doggos, which just run away. Because you can't hurt the doggos, you just knock their shield off. So the lasers do quite a bit more damage than the smaller bullets like that. This screen right here, there's a bomb there, so I'm just going to skip this because this screen is garbage. And you can see how much damage I took just from that one guy shooting me. I probably could have even bombed a little bit earlier. Just to get rid of the yellow guys. What are you doing? He's definitely trying to rush me down there. I gotta wait a little bit because sometimes when you collect bubbles there, it enters the sequence too quickly, and you end up having to fight this boss as regular Michael, which is pretty much costs an extra bomb on its own. You pretty much always have to bomb once because this attack is, well, I actually managed to kill one before, but just in the interest of time. Yeah, usually you can't get one of those before they line up and fire like that. So once you get all of them, he just kind of floats around and shoots diagonally every once in a while. So he's pretty easy from this point. Just kind of cut him around. The laser shot that the robot does is not a lot of damage actually, but the rockets do more than the max charge shot normally. So this stage is very difficult. I'm probably going to die in this stage. Thankfully I have 3 lives, so it should be okay. This stage is pretty long, and there are a lot of very high damage enemies. Particularly in the second half. So I'm going to take this quite a bit slow. That's what the robots look like when they're activated. I don't think I hit one, but I still got it somehow. The green robots with the arms can do... they'll usually fire 2 lasers and then try and rush at you. If you're dealing with other enemies, they can be a real pain, and they do quite a bit of damage if they crash into you, and the lasers do a damage on their own. Yeah, he got me there. That actually do as much as I was thinking it would. Got a good shot there, cleared a lot of that screen. This guy comes out and drops bombs at you while you're dealing with these guys. Oh, don't do that. Don't do that. So that's bad. I basically lost 2 bombs worth of value there. This guy's just annoying at this point because nothing else is... Oh, there they are. This guy's pretty dangerous because the buzzsaws can loop around in very weird ways. That went pretty well. I'm going to have to play this next part. This is where the stage gets really tough, and I'm going to have to play this very safe since I already lost a life. So we're in the graveyard, and there are a lot of zombie enemies, and they do a lot of damage and have a lot of health. Try and get a good hit there. Not even, like a full charge shot isn't even enough to kill these guys, and they'll stand up and throw vomit at you, which does just a ridiculous amount of damage, and you also don't get very many iframes from it. But thankfully, if you hit them once, they'll get knocked down and get stalled for a bit, and you can kind of meaty them. Ultra safe here. So this part has a lot of the mechs. They spawn at very weird times, or they activate at very weird times. You can't hit them if they're not moving. So I just want to very carefully clear this screen out. Oh, and that's bad, that's bad. A little bit of health there. This guy is going to... Barely got that. And this last part just throws a ton of enemies at you, so I just want to spawn a couple at a time here. That was a good hit. And I'm waiting a little bit so that the charge shot is up when the enemy spawns and they hadn't become vulnerable yet. Thankfully we get the robot now, which helps clean this up. So this boss fires out plasma, which turns into ghosts. I'm going to try to kill the middle one here as quickly as possible to make it a little bit safer. The plasma can hit you on its way over, but once it's past you, it just harmlessly passes you until the ghosts spawn. So I took damage I wasn't expecting to take there, so I'm just going to use a bomb. Unfortunately, I got the screen clear bomb, which doesn't help me too much. And the ghosts get a little more aggressive as you kill the turrets, so the green ones can chase you down pretty quick, but we got it, and we're alive with a little bit of health. We still have another death to take, so it's not horrible, and I believe there's a couple health ups early on in this stage, so... Those turrets we pass through them fire at you, so I'm just going to play safe and clean them up while I'm away. Just going to get a bomb here because I don't like these guys. And I missed that first shot, so they could have very easily rushed me down. I'm ready to clean up because there's one of the bigger enemies here. Actually got it, so I might be able to get through this part without a bomb. I just have to clean these guys up. Usually I have to take a bomb there, so that earlier bomb, I'm kind of net even. These guys... Oh, I did not do quite a full charge shot there, so that robot was going to rush me down, and guys throwing rocks were going to come from behind and wreck me. You guys have a lot of health. So we're just gonna clear this out. We get bombs here. That's what the other bomb looks like. And it just does a ton of damage to... Yeah, if you let him get out of this stun lock, he'll jump at you, which can be pretty dangerous. Go. And so we're in the home stretch of the game. Of course, we have an elevator stage. They were not vulnerable yet, so this is pretty dicey. Line these guys up, there we go, caught up. I'm timing the charge shot so I can have a max charge as soon as the enemies spawn. What are you doing? Get back on there. I don't feel like dealing with that. Axe was about to, or that blade saw was about to hit me. I think I got it a frame away. of these guys for good measure. Same strat as before. Of course, now he spawns with 2 of these guys, which we want to get. Okay, got him. And so that was the last phase of the elevator, so as soon as we kill this guy, we will proceed to the final boss. So we've got a life remaining, 1 bomb. So we're sitting pretty good. You keep the robot even if you die, so that's not a big deal here. So he's up at the top right there. I just killed. He killed those turrets. I activated him a bit early. So he fires just a constant stream of A-way shots. It's actually a lot more annoying I had to use that as a safety. I'm gonna get iframes to get out of here, otherwise I was gonna get hit as soon as he. Yep. So he kind of wanders around a bit and then opens up his core. Oh, I still could have taken a hit there. It's actually a lot tougher to dodge these shots than it looks. Just because of the way they're spaced out. Here we go. And so that was the final boss. So we got a 1 CC with 1 life to spare. And Michael turns into a spaceship because that's what he does. There's apparently a story to this game, but usually just skip it. Anyway, put our initials in here. Score was not that great. I let a lot of enemies go. I think BBH actually has the current top score on this. A lot of the extra score comes from putting up from collecting health up items while you're max health and bombs while you're max bombs, as well as making sure you kill everything. So it's pretty tough because if you get hit at all, it kind of takes away from it. But that is that, so we will go on here.